Thanks for staying to the end of day one of Come to Our House. Good to see you. I really hope there's been some value in today for you, and we hope that there's some value tomorrow as well. We're just going to finish up by talking a little bit more about this family leadership thing, because that might seem like an odd thing to partner, or maybe it doesn't now after some of the presentations today, but it can seem like an odd thing to partner with challenging behaviour. Why is family leadership really important when we're thinking about the experience of challenging behaviour? And one of the reasons is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all straightforward solution for many of our loved ones. So if there was, we wouldn't be here today. If there was a professional or a program or a treatment or a something, we'd all be going there or getting those guys in to talk to us. So what we're acknowledging is that this situation experience that we find ourselves in is complex and it's not straightforward. And we know that part of the answer for every single one of our family members actually sits within families. Part of the solution is already there, and this is about teasing that out and exposing that and giving that a voice. So we're going to talk about a couple of ways that family leadership can play out in supporting families experiencing challenging behaviours to get better outcomes. The first one we're going to share is about the Alberta Association for Community Living Family Leadership Training. Just adjusting my microphone so my voice is most beautifully amplified. So me and my friends here, Jo Nunn and Gina Wilson-Burns, are going to talk a little bit about that. Something kind of magical happened back in 2009 when the Alberta Association for Community Living, I don't think I'd ever even heard of Alberta, let alone know where it was, but anyway, they knew about us and they were concerned about the state of family leadership in Australia and the apparent lack of it and lack of support for family leadership. So from their own money, they funded 30 families from all around Australia to go to Alberta to do 2 weeks of training in family leadership and to have some experience of some of the things that are possible for people with disability. And it was life-changing for all of us. We had lots of experiential learning where we got to hang out with people with complex disability and challenging behaviour who have jobs, go to university, included at school, have friends, have their own homes, do all kinds of cool things that seemed completely out of reach for us. They just weren't things that we saw happening around us. We stayed with other families who were more experienced, and we all had individual mentoring when we were there, and many of us have maintained those relationships since we had that experience, and some of us, Jo Nunn, on their way back in October this year to catch up with some of those old friends that we've stayed connected with on Facebook and been sharing our journey with. So, just wanted to talk about the results of 2 weeks of really good quality support for each of us and the impact that that's had on our sons' lives. So for me, the thing that stood out was this idea of post-secondary education. Actually, John O'Rourke's not presenting tomorrow. He presented today, so if you didn't go to that, you missed it, but it was really good. And what we were told in Alberta, that at any given time there's more than 200 students with developmental disability, and some of those students have challenging behaviours, attending university. And we got to go to university and meet some of those guys. And I have to say, meeting a young man with Down syndrome who was in his 5th year being included at university, showing me around his campus and talking to me about Greek mythology, blew out of the water for me any low expectations I might have had before about what's possible for people. It's really true that if we immerse people in a rich and typical environment, then some really extraordinary things can happen. I'm not saying that's an unskilled thing. I think it's really important that there was a lot of support to make that happen, but they do it and it works and the results are incredible. So that kind of led to us exploring Eli attending ECU, so he did a semester of drama at ECU, and that was a really great experience for him and a successful experience for everyone else involved. It's become part of the understanding, I think, that we have, that he has needs for lots of excitement and stimulation in his life in order to feel that he doesn't need to behave in challenging ways. And that's become part of the tapestry, if you like, so the ongoing learning for him has become part of the tapestry of support that works for him. The other thing we learned was that we can have influence over the services and systems that we engage with, and in fact that we need to, because we know that services and systems aren't adequate. It's probably one of the reasons many of you are here. So we need to find our voices in terms of telling them what we need and what's going to work more effectively. So this conference is probably indirectly partially a result of that experience that we've all had, which has given us the belief that we can change things and we can make a difference in the lives of our sons and daughters. So that's how it was for me. I'm just going to hand over to Jo Nunn, who'll share a little bit of her story going to Alberta.
So one of the, apart from going to universities, one of the things that I saw were people with all kinds of disabilities in the workforce. And that wasn't just from people who had shown us around in Alberta and taken us to people who had businesses or were working. It actually was very well entrenched, even in Vancouver, where we went to a tourist bureau, what we would call a tourist bureau here, and people with intellectual disability were working. So I came back and decided that Daniel should work. He was in his final year of schooling, and we had a vision around that and supported him to go to school, to work, sorry, getting my words mixed up here. So there was a bit of a plan with the microboard to look for opportunities, and one of those came up at a university, and we had a talk to somebody, and he took 10 months, about 10 months to think about that, look around and see what was in his workplace that might be a good fit for Daniel. He'd asked quite a few questions when I had pitched the idea to him, and it was in a way that I didn't really know what I was doing. I just needed to explore this with people, and he went away with that and did really put a lot of thought into it and looked out for what was in his workplace that might be a good fit. He rang up one day and said, "Look, I think I've got it. I think I know what Daniel might like to do, or a good starting point for some work." So one of the things that the area in their university hadn't done very well was to do their recycling. Although they had a recycling program, their school wasn't that flash at doing it. And he felt that with Daniel and his big custom-made manual wheelchair coming in, knocking on the door each week and emptying people's bins would raise the profile of people doing a better job at recycling within the university. And it might be something that Daniel might consider for a first job. And we started that off as a voluntary thing. So for the first 3 months, Daniel went off after a lot of prep work. He went along, he had a look at it. He decided that yes, he would have a go at doing that. And a lot of this is around observation. Daniel's yesing and knowing isn't that clear, so we would have to be watching him and getting a sense of what we thought he might like to do. And after 3 months, Tom came in and said, Tom's the young man who worked with him, said, "Jo, I don't think this is the right job for Daniel." And I asked why, and he said, "Well, it's been 3 months and he'll only empty 3 bins." Okay, there's a good clear indication that this just might be the job that he's not interested in. And so a confession here is that I didn't know how much Daniel understood. We had no formal way of communicating other than me talking at him, probably, for most of the time, and us watching him to see what he would be doing in environments and how he would respond. So I'm not even sure why I had this conversation with him, because my expectations in what he understood was quite low at that time. But I did say, "You know what, Dan, I know that emptying bins isn't a really flash job. It's actually a really crap job, but it's a first job. I used to clean out pages in a vet. That was my first job. So you've got to start somewhere. Some of the things that you might like about your job is that you catch a train to Perth and you catch a bus, and you also you're able to ride up and down in a lift because there's one floor, and he really loves lifts. There's also a lot of people at the university, so you make a lot of connection, and I know that you like people. So if you think that they are well worth your time to invest in improving on your bin emptying skills, then, you know, how about you give it a go? And we'll work on it for the next 3 weeks. We'll just watch, and if you only empty 3 bins for the next 3 weeks, that's fine. We'll stop the job and we'll find something else. So the following week, Tom arrived. I had the same conversation in front of him. I just said, this is what I said to Dan in front of Daniel again, and they went off to work. And they walked in that afternoon, and they were both smiling, a bit like the cat who caught the canary. And I said, so what happened? And he said, well, Daniel emptied 7 bins today. And then the following week he emptied 21, and then it went up to 28, and now he's doing 2 floors, and they're looking for more work. I think that Dan needed the context. So his behaviour, so Jen and I, my sister's here today, and our family are great at passive-aggressive behaviour. And Dan's learnt really well that, you know, if I sit in a hot car for 2 hours, you just might take me for a drive. So this was his way of saying, you know, I need more information about what it is, you know, as to why I would invest my time.
And so for me, that little baby on the screen had just started kindergarten a couple of weeks prior, or a week before I'd got this phone call with this offer of this opportunity. My husband had just started working in a new job which was an hour away from home, and I hung up the phone and sat there and went, just been given this opportunity to go to Canada for the best part of 2 weeks. This baby's just started school. How are we going to do it? And it was fascinating to watch my family just rally and say, just do it, whatever it takes. We can pick Mac up, drop him off, you know, it's fine, just go. So the thing that it did was it actually got those natural supports that we hear about fired up and in place, and they've been there the whole time. So it was that sort of call to arms that was really important. And for me, I mean, you know, this was a very young child with very significant disabilities that, you know, we'd been, for the most part, being told a lot of he won't, he can't, he'll never. And yet here I was immersed in this, what I call inclusion boot camp, looking or visiting people living in their own homes, people with significant disabilities, seeing their jobs, seeing the businesses that they're running, seeing how supports were being used differently, that a support person might be the driver of the person with the disabilities company car so that they could run their business. Watching them follow their passions into real businesses that they created. The post-secondary education for me was an eye-opener, and seeing that how that worked, and how over there the university systems had far more flexibility than the education system, so that's why it was working so well. So all of a sudden all these ideas about what Mac's future could be just became bigger and broader, and I can remember coming back and a few months later doing a course, and I think it was an SRV course, and one of the questions they posed was what kind of career or jobs could you see your family member with a disability going into, and I could see them watching me intently, because for someone with a child, one so young and with such significant and multiple disabilities, I was sure that they were thinking I wasn't going to be writing anything, and they were confident I wasn't going to be writing anything. And I remember I had about 8 things down, and they said, what did you just write? Thinking I was doing a shopping list or something. And I remember I had, like, you know, Mac was great at picking up the music score of and the intent of what's going on in TV shows and movies. And I said, well, he could, could earn great money to people testing their music scores for movies against the Mac factor, or we live on a farm. Maybe he'll farm, but maybe he'll use GPS fencing rather than having to have anyone out there building fences. And he was great, had great palate. So I sort of thought, well, he could be testing dark chocolate because he's pretty good at dark chocolate. And he was a bit hypersensitive with smells. So I sort of thought, well, he could probably get perfumes, right? And that might be to the benefit of all of us, because you go, no. But it was sort of those sorts of things, and that's what this trip gave me with the families that I went with from Australia, and then the Canadian families. It was huge. It was life-changing. It was life-affirming. Everything I think we do around Mac's life, so much of it comes from this. And I still hear myself trotting out lines that were what other people said to me, and things like that. And one of the funniest lines, I think, that has stuck with me the whole time, which came from an Australian, was that the indication of the strength of a friendship has nothing to do with how well or not well they cope with the bodily fluids of their friend. And it was still in such, because Mac, and there were some friends that you could see them, they'd bristle, yet the others will wipe his face, but it has no impact. And it was such a great insight into that doesn't count, that's no impact into how well those friendships will develop. And yeah, I think that family leadership for all of us, finding those allies and those like-minded individuals, we know it works. What these guys are achieving is fantastic, and it's nice having them to follow along behind. But it's an amazing strength, and it can happen globally. So it doesn't even have to be families in your neighbourhood. The internet now allows us to be families everywhere.
Come on, side-by-siders, up you come. We're just going to hear about a second local initiative around family leadership called Side by Side.
Thanks, Jackie. So we're lucky enough to go last. So we'll be short and sweet, but very informative. So Side by Side is a strength-based peer partner program, and it's based around families who are living with challenging behaviour. That's all you need to have in your life. A child with a disability, with challenging behaviour, and you're in. So I think it was mentioned before that it was one of the recommendations from the Responsive Services Towards Responsive Services for All report in 2009, and it was recognised that families who were supporting someone with a challenging behaviour were pretty much the first ones that couldn't get the right support, whether it was not being accepted on the school bus, or schools that didn't know how to help you understand your child's behaviour, or respite carers that just went too hard basket. So basically, in 2012, DDWA got a grant to work with families to co-design what this model of support was going to look like. So from the very beginning, it's been by families, for families. And I think when I was listening to these ladies talk, we've been really lucky, because that AACL trip, 10 years ago? 7 years ago? It keeps on giving, because we're lucky enough to be getting some of the the skills and the experiences that they got over there, and we're just trying to get Jodie and Maggie over to Canada too, so just putting it out there. We work really closely with Microboards Australia. They were called Universe formerly, so we've got the experience of people like Jackie Mills and Jo Nunn and Susan Stanford to, I suppose they've got kids with older kids with, different kind of experiences. So most of the families that we work with have younger kids, so I think it's really awesome that they get to be made aware of what possibilities there are. So Eli, has his own business and lives in his own home, and Paul J does his thing and he's off to Canada soon, and so there's lots of different opportunities, and we seem to attract really awesome and amazing families. And it doesn't matter if you're just one family on your own, we'll accept you and we'll just work with you at your pace and figure out what to do. So you have to have that lived experience. We're called family partners, and it's someone that wants to provide that support to families. But I have to say, most of the time families, dip in and out of being the one that provides the support, or if they're wanting the support. And I think that's one of the really good things of side by side. So if things are going a little wobbly for a family partner, then somebody else can pick up the hope and build that resilience along with me, who is the facilitator of side by side. So I always say I'm really lucky and I get paid to do this work. And you know, I kind of stumbled upon challenging behaviour and thought, oh my God, I can't do this. But I've learnt more from the families and, you know, the people that I've been working with since 2012, more than any kind of formal education. And I just feel really lucky to be able to be in a room full of people and families and share our experiences. So a family partner is connected to somebody, and it can be for a particular purpose. So if you're having trouble with education, for instance, or it can be around friendship because no one else has got your back because they wouldn't have a clue what your kid's up to. It's a geographical location, hopefully, if that works, but if not, that doesn't matter, because like these ladies said, we've got the internet, we've got phone, we've got Skype, we've got whatever you want, really. So there's a learning opportunity. We try to offer families some skills around strength-based approach to supporting people, and also the advocacy training that Maxine Drake, who you'll hear from tomorrow, has helped us develop as well. And hopefully they'll go on the DDWA website so that families can just access those whenever they can, because we know it's really tricky to get people together, and we've spread from Yanchep down to Bunbury, and you know, we're hoping to support anyone really regionally, and that's why it was so exciting that we could have that grant from Lotteries West, and we've got people from all over WA, so look out, you'll be stuck with us as well. So enough of me, I'll let these ladies talk.
Can I just keep going? Look at those beautiful people up there. Okay, so I'm not going to be long. So back in 2012, I think I just hit a wall, and I felt like I was doing everything but not enough, and didn't really know where to go to next. I was involved in a few different groups, but none of the groups that I was involved with had challenging behaviour like my son, and I sort of was stuck. I didn't know, felt a little bit isolated. That's when I got hold of Bron as the facilitator, and she put me in contact with Jodie, who's my family partner. So just having Jodie around to talk to have that shared experience, it was a great support for me, just having someone who was in a similar situation, you know, learning from her, but also just friendship was really important. So now Jodie and I are friends, and I keep telling her that our children are going to get married because we spend a lot of time together, and they're just awesome kids. But so I'm really big into family leadership, because this has really just boosted, it's catapulted us, you know, as a family, and it's great to work with people that are like-minded. These ladies here are just awesome. And at the moment our kids go to the same school, so Jodie and I have started a parent networking at Malibu. Oh, that's my beautiful boy up there. And we're just trying to get families together that feel the same way, and trying to help them to learn to read their children better, and communicate with their teachers and themselves and each other. So if you're interested in that, you can find me and we can talk about that too. There's the rest of the tribe.
Okay, why I wanted to join Side by Side? Well, I kind of never fitted into a typical support group, so when Side by Side was about challenge and behaviour, I felt that was the focus of my life for so long, so I'd finally found somewhere I belonged. I'd finished with the positive behaviour team and felt I'd got to a better quality of life with my family, and had gained a lot of knowledge along the way, which I'd love to have. I wanted to share with lots of families if I could, and if I could help one family, to me that felt really good, so why not get out there. I also wanted to feel a sense of worthiness. I'm a mum and a wife, which I love, but I wanted something for myself that I felt like I was giving back. And I wanted to connect with families that were in a similar situation as I was, as I know how hard that could be. These are my kids up here, my beautiful kids, and I've also got some pictures with Maggie and her kids as well. As what I got from Side by Side was building relationships with families and being able to see them have hope and confidence. It was really rewarding. Some relationships have turned to friendships, and we have gatherings, as you can see, the kids. Whoa, sorry. Kids on the boat together and that. I've gained some learning experiences, all the strength-based training, the listening and communication, the advocacy, the Is There a Better workshops. This has been able to help me with families to support them and also at home with my own family. And I've gained a support network for myself. I've got a group of people around me that I trust and I know I can contact any time, and that I have my ups and downs just like any other family. So I also need a really good supportive people around me to keep me positive. And where has it taken me now? Well, quite frankly, out of my comfort zone. I'm right here, right now, speaking in front of people. I've wrote some articles and done some interviews, talking in front of service providers. So it's definitely taken me out of my comfort zone. I've had a trip to Albany, and we got to meet some families down there to try and introduce them to the model of Side by Side. That was really wonderful experience. And to be a part of the family leadership group, just to be a voice for other families, and the family networking at Malibu. Meg and I come up with this crazy idea one day coming back from family leadership meeting, and we've kind of put it into action, which is really exciting. You know, we wanted to build relationships with parents around the school that our kids go to, and we want our kids to then have friendships. So when they leave school, they still have friendships, and the parents have friendships, and that means a lot to us. So that's what we're trying to keep going with. And basically, I've just got a lot more than I expected, and it's been an amazing journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Jodie. So, just wanted to extend an invitation to you. Like, the content of this conference has been designed pretty much by families who have experienced some success in figuring out how to respond to behaviours which can be seen as challenging. And we're all really passionate about helping other people to do that as well. If you feel like it's not hitting the mark for you, we'd really like you to come and talk to us, because we don't want anybody going home tomorrow feeling less hopeful than when they came. And so I just wanted to invite you to have some grace with us, that we've given this thing a crack of doing a conference. We haven't done a conference before. We're really excited about it, really excited about the possibilities of getting everyone together. And we'd like to hear what we do well, but we also want to hear if it's not working for you. So please come and talk to us and have that conversation with us if you're not feeling good about anything that you're hearing. Not you. And I guess just to reassure you as well, that whilst a lot of us are talking about our loved ones and some pretty awesome things they're doing, we've absolutely have been, and at times still go through, the really hard stuff, right? So there's pretty much nothing, I don't think, you can say to us which is going to shock us. Between us all, we've been through, you know, pretty much this. It's all supported people through the extreme end of things. So don't want you to feel, like Gina was saying, that your family member is too anything to be included, or for you to feel comfortable being here with us. So we just want to sum up from the Towards Responsive Services for All. Families need to be supported in a way that sees them as the solution, not the problem. We are a really critical part of the answer, and it's really important that we get together and that our voices are heard, and that we keep continuing to find ways to invest in families. So we might not all be able to go to Alberta, although I'm pretty sure more of us could if we wanted to. But I think the support of this conference by the Disability Services Commission shows that there's real interest in investing us as families, and that things can happen in the future. So if you've got some ideas ticking over, percolate them overnight and talk about them over dinner and bring them tomorrow, because at the end of tomorrow we'd really love to hear what your thoughts are and what your vision is for the future of family leadership and challenging behaviour. That's me, Dr. House.